king.
Yes.
Don't forget to play the rest of the tape on Justin.
Right. We got him. That's the ending of this section, of this part. And here is the militant elements who are willing to do the violence. Right? Now, if you ain't willing to do the violence, don't be against the one who is willing to do it. It takes courage to do it.
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to give honor where honor is due. The people who pulled off what put our race in a better position are not in this room.
Check.
So we give honor to the one who ain't never come to election.
Check.
They may never come. Now, if you listen to their music from an industry that they created, that is a multi-billion-dollar industry without any assistance from the adults. They have their own language, yo. Right? And then come to be financially sufficient in certain areas without even established means of education and other things. Right? Now, but in their discussion, it's not necessarily about the trilateral, CFR, or the Bilderberg group, but what is in there is fuck the police. Now, let's figure this out. Now, I always tell this story. This is the Copley story. We're off to see the wizard. The wonderful Wizard of Oz. This is the Yellow Brick Road. Now, you're on the way to the wizard. At the R for Rockefeller. You're on your way to the wizard, but on the Yellow Brick Road, you run into the OEO boys. OEO. Right? That's these guys. That's the police. Sure, they got them on the ropes. I don't even know why that fit. OEO boys is on the way. Now, here you are, right? You's a halfback. You got linemen in front of you, quarterback, you back here halfback and a fullback. Now the OEO boys is there. You're not going to tackle them. You got to let the guard or the tackle or the center break a hole for you to run through. You need a hole. So you can at least get into the backfield of opposition where he's got thinner ranks before you get the touchdown. Now see, if we do this, everybody get it. Right? Because they understand this, all kind of batting averages and how many assists Jordan got. There ain't nothing like that on power. And every town need to be batting averages on power. Every building ought to have an equation to it. So these OEO boys is going to block you from getting to the wizard. Now when you get past the police, now if the gang boys, the Bloods, the Crips, or the Peace Stone Nation, or the Disciples, or anybody else, say, well look Steve, I tell you what, I'll be guard, and I'll be tackle, and Marcus, you be quarterback, and after we bust this hole, we're going to send him up the middle. Now his goal is to get into the opposition. Now you may pick up blockers from other places who are running reconnaissance routes, some of them decoys, taking a man long. We get somebody talking some crazy shit, they taking them long. Not that they're running a play that they're going to expect to pass. They just want their man to follow them out to obscurity, to do nothing, just to get distracted. At a certain point of distracting them, he runs back to his second possibility of having to free this man. But he has to first isolate his man back out into nothingness. Now, the OEO boys, right, a dirty, nasty, ruthless beast. But you're going to have somebody who's going to want to take them on. Now, when someone come out and say, don't be violent, and they ain't willing to be no guard or no tackle, then I don't understand how they think they're going to score. How is somebody going to have a right to do a lecture unless somebody fought for the right for the spot that the lecture was at? So if you're going to be the halfback, someone will say, boy, it sure does look exciting because somebody had the thrill of having the ball in their hand to be the one that they saw make the score, but someone else had to remove the opposition. So if we see on the tape the brother say you can't fight a gang with a gang, then you give us the LAPD and the county sheriffs, and we'll throw them down and run them out to obscurity and line block with them until we create a hole for you to go on into the next tier of the opposition. So if somebody's willing to put the blanket of fear upon the white person so they respect you, the one who may not be straight with him, to keep your economic thing together, so you kind of eat a little shit. I'm so glad to work for myself, because I don't eat no shit. Eating shit is tough. Some of y'all going to eat some shit tomorrow even. You're going to swallow some shit with a white man just to keep your thing going. You're going to say, Brother Coakley, he knew I was out here feeling like this too. And we hope to free you before you lose yourself. But you can only hold so much of that in. I'm so proud to see those Mexicans go off. Because I used to think they was loving that shit. Now I'm going to tell y'all, they arrested 3,000 Mexicans, 2,000 blacks, and 1,000 whites. That's y'all breakdown. Now I was so proud to see the Mexicans go off, y'all, because I always thought they were so happy to be up here to get a job that they would eat all that shit. They said, I'm going back and get jobs. And they'd be so happy to get up here that they would allow themselves to be exploited just to be up here. But I'm glad to know they didn't like the shit they was getting either. I'm glad to know that. Because I wondered whether they was liking it. Because we needed to know, because he would be used when you would be exterminated. So now they know it ain't going to be black or brown that can be used. They're going to have to go to Eastern Europe to get what they need to buff up what we taking away from them. That's the dumb workforce, the faceless, nameless, dumbless workforce that don't have values, just need money. They can make a whole out of them. So I'm glad of that. So we just be up on that. In every single city, we had the great flush out where people were identified to us who told other people not to be violent. And all you got to do is ask them three things. One is, since you asked them to be nonviolent, what would you do, or what are you doing to supplant what they're doing? I said, well, I probably don't even go in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? I mean, if you check on it real tough, most of the ones that don't be violent probably ain't never even been in the hood good. So I'm real skeptical. I got a list of all those who call for no violence because I don't understand. The only thing the white man wanted was to stop the violence. That's the only thing that made good for him, was to stop the shit. As long as that stopped, they say, now you can't get on TV unless you repudiate this violence. And so we be up on those people. So we got a list of them people in every city who was the stop the violence crowd. Now I don't want to confuse that with the real thing about the truth. And I watched 4 policemen on TV yesterday, and they asked them about whether they believed the truce was for real between the gangs. And they was talking a bunch of shit. I don't believe the dang shit. And the brother sat there and he said, well, I'm going to tell you something. He policeman. I used to be out there with them, and I'm glad to see what they're doing. And they doing something y'all don't understand it. And he was like, y'all fucking up. He said, now y'all pay me to tell you, and I'm telling you. And then they said, really? They was like, really? So then it was like, well, how will we know they really mean it? It was like, well, we'll put the intelligence thing on them to see what they up to. It's like, well, okay, we'll resolve it that way, right? And so they cooled it out at that point. But I thought that was interesting that brother didn't allow himself to be yoked with them. So let's understand that the team that busts the house down, busts the door down, won't be the team that reupholsters the living room. Won't be the team that secures the second floor, that starts redoing the upstairs bathroom. So if somebody want to take the position of busting the door down, then you just be ready to do your role, which is to replace the carpet or to put up the new walls or to secure the second level. But we are not all in the same tier. Now, if we sit down and we talk and we counseling, and they say, well, brother, how will we secure this? I say, well, we'll win when we get to the Wizard of Oz. And we know we're going to come into the OEO boys, then we're going to come into Eveline, then we're going to see the Wicked Bitch in the West. And then once we finish with them, we got the wizard because he was just a front anyway. Remember the story when they finally got down on him? He was a big front. That's the opposition. Okay, now this is, I want to play this for you. This is Jesse Jackson. This is now Jesse Jackson on what he did. He had a big meeting. Had a big meeting in Washington, D.C., a big leadership meeting. Oh, go ahead, brother. What you want to ask? Go ahead. I'll take it.
Are you going to read your list of the people that you
Which list?
The Uncle Tom's. The Uncle Tom's asking for nonviolence.
Oh. What was that now? We gotta get that one down.
Stop the violence.
And I don't have to change that word, stop the violence, because I don't want to confuse it with the other stop the violence movement, which was a record. See, that's more important out here, that phrase, than it is in other parts of the country, because you all had to rap. I was here when they all got together and put the big posters out, had the big event in Compton, and everybody went everywhere with putting the posters out. So we don't have to change that word, but we just we know they're the ones who absorb the white man's dilemma. Yeah. And in the second half, I'm going to set some names up there from all over the country. In every city, you can just pull them out of the paper from the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, where they got all the way down to the bridge, down to get the casinos. Yeah. Got right down to get the cash money. If you're going to have a revolution, you will need Las Vegas. So how about we just get in the hills. Now remember how it sets. It's out there all by itself. We just surround the hill. We just start closing in on it. Doom, 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 doom. We got it. That's all it takes. And they ain't sitting there waiting on it either because they too busy. They like Rome and shit. Now remember, it's something to people overeating and over-sexing and over-drinking, and it's great. Sometimes that's an important thing. We want them to be festive and happy. Maybe it should happen on Columbus Day. Now that means just for that, we're going to have to do it in September because somebody's going to try to fuck it up. We wait till October. We have to move it up now. Y'all ain't tricking me into that. And say, these niggas just saying Copeland announces coming down in October. So we make the shit in July. On the 4th or something. And we got to push it up to Father's Day. Okay. So, brother, we're going to have to get on that list. We're going to have to put all the names together. I know I was in Atlanta, and they had Coretta King and all them out there, and like I say, Francis Quelch was on the radio in Washington, and everybody somewhere was doing something. You should remember in formula the ones here. Okay, now, let me play this here. This is, Jesse Jackson forms his coalition. This is what, when you work with the opposition, and then you get them on the ropes, we got the white man on the ropes. You ever seen wrestling?
Yeah.
What y'all watching that shit for? Right? Okay, I know you just happen to be passing by it, right? Because that's like the white man's world is fixed. Anyway, so you ever seen him have a tag team where the dude, he's stomping the dude, right? He's doing a little fake thing. Then he go and hit his buddy's hand, and his buddy come jump over the ring, right? Come on down, and he finish the guy on the ropes, right? So now the white man is on the ropes, somebody go back and hit Brother Jesse's hand, he coming in the ring to get the white man that's on the ropes.
Check.
Okay. Thank you, sister.
Stand back, see.
On such a meeting, trying to get as many people to come, and yet not having...
He was on Arsenio Hall and announced his big leadership meeting.
Get something done is not great. We do not want to have a mass meeting and a preaching session. We want to get people to basically coordinate. People were there from Chicago, from St. Louis, from East St. Louis, from Kansas City, from Seattle, from L.A., from New York, from Maryland, from Virginia, from South Carolina. All of them in their own way were marching or protesting or making statements and having press conferences. It was some feeble attempt to coordinate our activities, and the group that did come began to lay out some plan of action that they are now taking back to the several communities. And there will be more meetings, I am sure, and nobody is denied the right to have a meeting.
Now, the findings or the recommendations from that meeting are available to
everybody.
And people can get them by calling?
Well, you can call the Rainbow at 728-1180, and basically what the first issue there was to coordinate a calendar of known protests around the country, number one. There are a lot of activities.
Hold it, stop now. I just want you to hear this. He's now got a coalition of 278 leaders from all over the country at the First AME Church in Washington, D.C. Excuse me, Metropolitan AME Church in Washington, D.C. Now the 30 niggas for 30 minutes was in the White House on 16th Street. So they didn't invite Jesse to that meeting because that was a Republican-controlled meeting. That's why Tony Brown set it up. So the Democratic Negro leadership had to have their own meeting, so they met on down the street from that. The next day, Jesse had his meeting, and so he forms a coalition. They hit his hand, he comes in to beat the white man, and this is what he decides he's going to do.
And people can get him by calling.
Well, you can call the Rainbow at 728-1180, 728-1180. And basically, the first issue there was to coordinate a calendar of known protests around the country, number one. There are a lot of activities taking place. As opposed to having 50 little bit of things, we're trying to have bigger events, bigger protests.
Hold it now, Jesse. The white man is on the ropes, snaps his hand, he runs in the ring, and then all he does is turn around and cover the white man and say, now who wants to hit him next? Who wants to hit the white man? So he gonna form a coalition in the midst of the rebellion, and his first job is to establish all known protests that are coming up. Now, what do that sound like? Now, I'm gonna play it one more time. I don't think y'all heard it. Y'all ain't quite acting like y'all hear it. Y'all understand what is going on?
180.
I might not set it up right.
Basically, the first issue there was to coordinate a calendar of known protests around the country, number one. There are a lot of activities taking place. As opposed to having 50 little bit of things, we're trying to have bigger events, bigger protests.
Under the guise of having bigger protests, he got to first find out where they all are. Now, earlier, we were talking to him about Rockefeller, and he wouldn't even name him. Now, here he is now. He can't name Rockefeller, but now, on behalf of Rockefeller, he got to go find out all the planned insurrections. Now, how is that going to be your first job when you got a thing, when you got him on the ropes, and your first job is to find out who want to hit him?
You like the fire.
Unless you're an agent. That's what an agent do. And an agent know not to name their daddy. And that was his problem. Now, let's go one more.
No house nigga.
You know it. I need one more tape. Oh, here we go. This is now on Jesse and the CFR question.
Yes?
Jonathan, it's Crosstalk. You're on there.
Yes. Yes, my man?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I got two questions. One, I don't have a problem with fighting and taking direct action, but don't you agree we should prioritize our focus to place it directly on the people and the places where we can get some relief? And two, previous caller mentioned that we should be fighting the Council on Foreign Relations, but yet still when I look on the membership, it says that you're on the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. Could you explain?
No, anytime I can be a part of finding out what's happening in the world, I mean, I would do that. But the Council on Foreign Relations, whatever it does, has nothing to do really with why we are not making a priority on prenatal care with all these babies dying, and Head Start, and daycare. It has nothing to do with why we're not in a sustained drive to reduce tuition and increase teacher pay. And when I focus on that, I sense that to be the right thing to do. There are 12,000 students at Howard and 13,000 at Lawton. It costs less than $10,000 a year to go to Howard. And I say it because it's one of the highest costs for black colleges in the country, about less than $10,000 a year, but $30,000 a year to go to Lawton. Well, I think that a massive drive to reduce tuition and increase scholarships will make a big statement to a large segment of our population. But while one population may be trying to go up and on to college to be able to make a contribution, there's another population that needs something very different from that. Prenatal care, and Head Start, and daycare, and more funding for public education. You look at the gap between the amount of money that's paid to a teacher or principal in D.C., say in contrast to Montgomery County, that's an issue. But some people find that is what they intend to engage in the fight. So while you may prioritize, there are There are many priorities, and you got to respect people's choice of what they choose to fight on.
What is this Council of Foreign Relations? The two callers that made reference to that. What does that council do for the listeners who may not be aware of what it's all about?
I've never been to a meeting. I've spoken to one of them, and essentially people who've been involved in foreign affairs, who analyze foreign affairs, who analyze foreign policy.
Analyze it, and what happens with the information?
Well, sometimes they make it public, sometimes they share information one with the other, but it's not, I mean, it's foreign policy determined by the State Department of the given administration. It's not by a, you may have...
So it's an arm of the State Department?
No, not at all. No, it's not. When the State Department makes foreign policy,
right,
based upon the judgment of a given president and that Congress. There's more that president than that Congress.
So does the council advise the State Department?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. I think, because two callers have made reference to it, and I'm wondering how many listeners are out there trying to confuse as to exactly what the council, the function of the council is. You've served on it as an honorary member or what?
You know, I was asked to serve on it some time back. I've never really been to a meeting, but I kind of know what it does. I mean, people who have a sense of world affairs meet. Some are academic people, some are activists, some are people who serve as ambassadors, and others who serve in countries who discuss the implications of a given foreign policy matter. But it's more academic than activist. It does not make one policy decision, nor is it an advisory group to the State Department.
Okay. I want to ask you this because I know you've got to leave.
Now, he didn't know what it was, but he knew what it was. He knew what it didn't do. He knew what to not get caught saying it did. Right? He said he never been to a meeting, but he spoke in one. Then later on, he said he never really ever been to a meeting. Now, what do never really ever mean? Is like, he said, like, I'm a vegetarian, I only eat chicken. Like, I'm a virgin, I only had sex twice. You know how we shave the corners? We're going to stop now for the break. I hope some of you all find some tapes and other things up here you'll be interested in. Try not to talk me to death during intermission so I can...
We have a city that's burning to hell. We have a city that's going to hell. Tonight, voices as you heard.
Quiet shit was a
We'd
riot.
rather have the inmates than have Daryl Gates and be living in the police states. No justice, no peace. First it was quiet, then there was a riot.
Right.
There's something in here that we're keying up as everybody's coming in. Something I want you
This
to
is
see.
an ABC News Nightline Special Edition. Nightline in South Central. Now reporting
There's
from
something
Washington.
wrong.
This last weekend was different. We sat in a church basement after Nightline ended last Friday while a lot of very eloquent but angry people bounced their frustrations off me. It wasn't anything personal. I just happened to be the most visible white person around. You understand what you see. And then on Saturday, I spent most of the afternoon with a bunch of murderers, drug dealers, robbers, and probably the architects of quite a few crimes I've never even thought of. And I'm only slightly embarrassed to say that I like them very much, and was extremely impressed with a great deal of what they had to say, and the passion with which they said it. The two most violent gangs in Los Angeles, they have branches in other cities, but their roots are in L.A., the Crips and the Bloods have, for the time being at least, made peace. Why? Common enemy. Who? Some young men from the 8 Trey Gangsters will tell you when we come back.
This is an ABC News Nightline Special Edition. Brought to you by Charles Schwab.
Today, it was the flashpoint and the sight of the most violent image, the beating of the truck driver. Where once there were thriving businesses, there are now scorched shells. We went there with members of the gang that rules the toughest corner in town.
If you asked me if there was any type of organization going on here, no.
You got some more tapes?
Talk about
You gonna leave it up?
fact that numerous brothers and
This ain't
sisters,
even the spot.
again, not only in this community, but other communities said
You got
they'll
another
never
tape, so you
not
got
get
another
to
tape.
work.
Probably the most famous piece of video, just as the beating of Rodney King became known worldwide. People saw it
No, I'm saying as long as you got another tape.
It was a piece of action.
Okay, but you just gotta keep it all on the tape. And I get my tape, you gotta keep everything on. In other words, if you put,
almost as famous.
if you putting this on here,
A white trucker
if you putting this
pulled
on
out of a
here,
cab of his truck
just keep it on there.
and beaten nearly to
You know what I
death.
mean?
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to ask you whether you were here, but I'm going to ask you whether you know what happened.
Yeah,
And why.
I know what happened. You got to understand that what the people saw was not the entire event. What they didn't see was 100 police that converged upon us on this corner right here and tried to manhandle our homeboys. You know, they had sisters in headlocks, and basically what happened was we weren't going for it. We weren't going out like Rodney King. So when we pushed them up out of here, they escalated the violence, hyped up the tensions, they retreated. And what they left was a bunch of brothers and sisters out here in the street, highly upset.
And what did that have to do with that trucker?
The trucker was not black. That's what had to do with it.
That's all he had to do, was not be black.
That was his claim to fame. He was not black. Yeah, it is, you know. I mean, but isn't it pretty sad that Rodney King, that the pigs got off?
But at this point, all that came to mind was the oldest cliche in the book. 2 wrongs don't make a right. That trucker hadn't done anything to anyone in the neighborhood. He was just the wrong color, in the wrong place, at the wrong time. Everyone is quite willing to concede
That's what made
that.
it work so well.
The tensions were high, okay? Again, it was a volatile situation anyway, okay? Now, basically what was going on in this intersection, that everybody that came through here that was not black was in trouble.
If I come walking through on that day,
You got it.
you got you. I want to make that.
Possibly not killed. I know one got murdered out here. I know of, but I believe that you would have got it too, yes. Just as Rodney King got it as a black motorist in the middle of the night by all white officers.
Ask some of your homeboys to come join us here.
What's up, Sid?
Watch TV, watch a little everybody. You should have known better.
We should know better. We know better to go to Simi Valley. With their trial, we can't go up there and express our feelings like we can out here.
When the police came with the force, they escalated everything right here. We live in this neighborhood. We're not going to push into our houses and watch little girls, mothers, grab their headlocks, friends, friends laid out on the street.
But now,
People got their clubs out just ready to bust us upside the head. How much is this going to take? Rodney King took enough as it is. We're not going out like that.
we hold back all the time. Keep going back to what? It's been 400 goddamn years now. We gonna hold back some more. It's Rodney King. Everybody's innocent. More than obvious what happened. A bunch of rednecks had a KKK meeting. Let's go get some black men. He was the first black man they got. He wasn't on PCP. He wasn't on nothing. Like that trucker got his ass kicked. Oh, I thought he was on PCP. He came at me. I thought he was on PCP. I was whipping his ass for my life. For my family life. I saw white men in robes shooting and tearing up. I was afraid.
That's what people saw here. Was our soul responding. So much abuse.
See, and that's important that you have a ability to rationalize your behavior. Because in those initial moments when the truck driver thing came down, I remember, is Brother Marcus still around? How Marcus had told me, he called me from about making sure we be clear about the provocation of the truck driver, and that we, when given that situation thrown back, and you're sitting everywhere, so say, isn't that terrible what they did to truck driver? And you got to say, hey, he provoked it. Because why would the man with the biggest thing in the intersection stop? He the biggest thing in the intersection. And why is it I see one picture, he got dark hair, but when they pull him out the truck, he had light hair. He got two identities? How many identities this man got? Was this man supposed to be in that area? Why was he in the area, and what did he stop for? And hey, all you need is a longer camera to have picked up two. See, no one has ever showed him come in there just right. You show him come in there just right, and if one person almost got hit by him, Now you got assault with a deadly weapon. And anything done beyond them, like to a criminal enterprise, is what you call fair play. The right, there's a right that makes the wrong. So anyway, we be up on that. Now there's another portion here that we want to key up on, and it's the discussion about the Crips, the Bloods, the LAPD, and the county sheriffs.
Right here on this corner, Florence North. That's what happened. What people saw when the trucker was pulled out of the truck, the same thing that people saw when Rodney King was beaten. They saw an act of random violence. And just right where it was. They know how they know how we felt. That's right. So now, like you said, now we be what it is. They know how we felt.
You know how those people was like appalled? How that trucker got beat? Right. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they were like shocked. And that's the same way we felt when Rodney King was down to get beat.
This whole thing was a political move because it happened in Los Angeles, it happened in the Valley. It should have been in a courtroom with Rodney King's peers. We still don't understand how to get shit from Van Nuys to Simi Valley. Population, majority Caucasian. Where the police live at? Simi Valley. How did that happen? The jury, was they from Simi Valley? Possibly they were from Simi Valley. Some of their kids or grandsons could have been police. See what I'm saying? Some of them could have been them, got them X's on their face, then do triple K. We don't never know. That's unfair, man. That's not Rodney King's peers. It wasn't nobody's peers.
And I think a lot of people around the country are seeing the same thing that you were just saying. A lot of people asking that question. A lot of people don't think that's fair.
Let's ask it. Why did it get moved? Is that the question, really? You realize we something that simple, that small. And we all know why it got moved. They could have had it downtown anyway. Could have had it close to Rodney King's house. Maybe he would have went to trial there. White folk moved there for a reason. They didn't have to move it. They didn't have to move it. We could have had it right here. Listen to everything. 28 days, all that they was going through. We could have had it right here. We could have found him guilty on every charge. Everything would have been fine. In 65, we didn't have assault rifles, Uzis, hand grenades, bulletproof vests. We got them now. It's a whole new generation out here right now. A whole new generation. Not a generation of ass-kicker takers, but it's giving out ass-kickers now.
And we all the same. You can't stop a gang with a gang. Until you people realize that, it'll never change. The Crips, the Bloods, the LAPD, and Los Angeles Sheriff, we're all like the same folk. The sheriffs and the PD's been working together for all these years. Now the Crips and the Bloods working together.
And a lot of us as young blacks follow the parents' footsteps to try to be cool, go to school, get education, until we got old enough to find out that's the worst thing you can have in the world is an education with no common sense. But now all of us with common sense are sticking together now. All the wars we've been fighting each other for nothing.
Believe in this. Be as one all the time. Put some Bloods, Be one. Watch out for the police because they're gonna play a trick. They don't want us to be like this. They don't want this. No, they don't want this. They don't want this. No, they don't want this. They do not want this. They do not want this. No, they don't want this. No, they don't want that. They don't want that.
A little later in the broadcast, we'll spend some time.
They don't want that. Ooh, that's hot, boy. So many people here have been near different times that they have congregated publicly and seen the harassment and the instigation done by the police, the guard, the reserve. They all instigated a lot of provoking stuff, hoping maybe they could pull them off it. And a lot of that has been going on here lately. But one thing is clear. Is interesting is that as they pull together, and you know, gang is pretty sophisticated organization because of the fact that they use codes and symbols, and it's a codified operation. It is a code. Even drug sellers are in codified operations. Lookout points. There's certain things involved in something that's coming that is in its own way more sophisticated than other things. And this emergence It's very significant, and we have seen a lot of moments where the whites have tried to dissipate this activity. And they don't want to see that. And I'm appreciative that they understand that they're not to be together. They understand that they don't want them to be together, which will help them stay together. Because if they just think they ain't getting together because they can't work it out, and see, they're doing things like tagging each other, right? If you've been talked to and told what the score is, you're wearing another symbol that only those who know the score are wearing. And so when you look up and you say, well, he knows the double score. It's the move and the double move. In other words, how you going to be in a fight and just playing one punch? You got to have a combination of punches. You may have a couple of jabs and a right and a move and a left and a up. So when you go into it, you've got to think through a series of situations, and they have learned how to check and double check even amongst themselves. And that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm very proud of some of the things that they have done. And now we got to try something else here. We want to pick up. Now we're going to see Reverend Murray. Well, actually, I think, in fact, let me just say this though. Reverend Murray don't come over.
What happened in church Friday night after Nightline went off the air?
Bring his ass out here.
Deadbeat dads.
Just cross my heart and heart.
Prime time catches them Thursday.
Last Friday night, we were at the First AME Church in South Central Los Angeles. Somehow word got around that Nightline was having a town meeting, and about 150 people from the community showed up to take part. There was only one problem. We didn't know anything about it, and we didn't have enough time to let members of the audience participate.
Okay, now somebody can speak to this if they want to. It's my understanding that when they got the people to come to the room, they didn't really know what was going on there. Is that correct? Somebody know about that? Everybody know about that?
Yeah, we were under the assumption, matter of fact, it was on the radio station, it was town hall meeting.
Now you have to say that so everybody can hear it, so we can get it in the thing.
The thing was, it was on KJLH. It was on KJLH, there was a town hall meeting, and I'm sure that's what brought the majority of the people there. I spoke with a few of them around me, and they said they thought it was a town hall meeting, and they got to the same source that I did.
When they got there, it was Nightline.
Check.
And also a lot of us asked, well, why you bring Nightline all the way down here? You could have that up in the studio.
That make my good, bro. Man. I can't do nothing but hit the switch.
Did you say that was a town hall meeting or a town hall meeting? Either same thing, right?
Right.
Sometimes words confuse us, so I need
Right. You got to break it down because it all sounds like it sounds.
It sounds the same.
Right. I want to pick up John Mack at an
Ordinary outpouring of emotion, and we kept rolling.
We have a city that's burning to hell. We have a city that's going to hell because a whole lot of things have not been done, ought to be done. Let's please, for once in our lives, act with some intelligence.
Hold it now, nigga. You've been in the Urban League too long. See, because the Urban League been controlled by the Rockefeller family since 1910. Now, there's a reason why he gonna get on national television. See, it's important that a black man in the middle of the black community stand up and say, y'all ain't never spoke intelligently ever. And tonight for the white man, up now, elephant, let's do it right. You see what he's doing? So when he opens up the jump, he's already putting the set down. And somehow he must be real intelligent because he knows everything he heard prior to that was unintelligent. Right, so, right. Is that the hotel piece, Greenberg? Yeah. Okay, just don't forget to send it back. All right, I appreciate you. I'm glad you're working on it. In fact, that article about the Greenbrier Hotel and the mountain also says, I learned for the first time in that article, that the Federal Reserve Bank got them a mountain for all of the Federal Reserve Bank people from the 12 regional banks to all be synced into their mountain and hide away the Federal Reserve and the money system so that when whatever it is over, they can come and bring it back out. That was something that was interesting. In the breakdown, when they break down the other mountains, you see the Federal Reserve part in there. That's worth it. So we had to pick up on this here. Now here was the danger here. Because Sister alluded to you about how it was they were inviting the people to come, which was not for the clearest reason, the people who would be prepared, who should have been in the position to have those spots when the world was watching, were not in position because the call didn't go out correctly. So since the call didn't go out correctly, the best foots weren't forward. Right? So then that allowed the purpose of going. Now you remember the first piece was the brothers was outside and the minister was inside. The brothers said they can't come in there. The minister said, now you starting stuff, Ted Copper, they can come in here. I do this for them and I do that for them and this and that. And all his soldiers in the church stood up and cheered and made a scene, made him look better than he was. Now that church make a whole lot of money every weekend. Between 50 and 70,000 to be exact. Now, add that 52 times. Now, you sitting up looking at a situation that you know why he's saying stop the violence, let me spend my dough. Right.
Got to get paid.
And always remember about the element that's not-for-profit tax exempt. There's no such thing as not-for-profit and tax exempt mean under the guidance of the authorities. Okay. What was that? Right. Now, certain people we want to pick up here, a couple of people I think are worth noting. And let's ask some questions. Now, John Mack, I've always warned our people about the United Way being a part of the intelligence collection system. You look up in the urban United Way up in L.A., you look at the role that John Mack has on the United Way in L.A., and also has, like the Urban League there got the Milliken Center there on Crenshaw. Now, how did Milliken get his name up there on the building? Right? You paid for the button and you tell it how you want it to work. So that's what he did. In fact, they went out and tried to get Milliken out of jail, let him work in the center for his time. I'm glad about the parts that Maxine Waters did. But she got to be more consistent. I mentioned last night about being at the Black Caucus event and watching her introduce that Drew Houdini Brown IV as if he was God. That American nigga shit about that pilot, he the only pilot. He worked for Federal Express or some old shit. He's got his wings and he want everybody to be him. I'm not black, I'm American. So we'd be up on that. And I thought it was interesting, too, the moment when the brothers were in the park talking and the brother slips off the pack and they started saying, hey, something's going on out there. He said, where's that? We see my man, he had the weapons is hidden in the park, and now that they run around and start some stuff, he in the position to protect us while we talking to you. I thought that was very clever about the width of an operation. And just to be able to have somebody on point while they're working is a good thinking. And so we appreciate that. Is there anything anybody, let me while we're waiting to get to a certain spot, I guess we talk a little bit about, what's that guy's name everybody want to talk about? Cecil Murray. How many of y'all are members of the church? Don't isolate me over there. Was you there that night I was there?
No, I wasn't there that day.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
What did they tell you?
Well, it's vague now, but you go ahead.
No, what they say?
Right, I know Ed was there. I was there. Maurice was there. They was talking about me like a dog, wasn't it?
James, what they say?
When they talking about me like a dog? Huh?
Oh, come on, how
I wasn't there.
No, I mean,
what did they say?
Brother said, not Christians.
I was there. I've never been there, but I never.
I'm making a few copies of the tape tonight, at least 6 copies, so if anybody interested. Last night at the lecture, sister presented me with an address book because I kept losing her number. So I thought about it, I didn't think about what I was going to do with this. So I thought about it, what I'll do with this book. Every lecture, I'm just going to send my book out, and whoever wants to be in my address book, you just sign up. I just pass it around. And I asked sister, I was so late for the lecture last night, I asked if she had a clock. Because obviously I needed a clock to go with my address book because I wouldn't get there on time. Thank you. So now, Reverend Murray. Now I know they was over there talking about me like a dog because they have to.
What they say, James?
Because they know I talk about them like a dog. Huh? Oh, here's my man. Like, oh, this is my man. This is my man.
Oh, no.
I'm a Marine, goddammit. Right, y'all know y'all had to get a dose of this. Right?
Russia and spend that money.
Eve Murray had to put his head down on this one. Yeah. Yeah. They told me that the guy is really almost departed. You know, I gave a Riot Report lecture in Washington. There was a member of the church from AME was in the audience, right? And he stood up and testified. If you get that Riot Report.
It's in human rights in this state or in this country. But I do believe that I can do it, and I think that this community can do it. What we need to start to teach each other is how to do business. How to do business. We want economic empowerment. We have it in the midst of our community. Let's do that.
Okay. That's right there.
I would like to say to America, and I would like to say, I was a former Marine, a corporal. I served my country proud from 1982 to 88. I served in countries where I saw poverty and deprivation, bodies that would rot out on the ground. Lebanon being one of them. But you know what? I never was ashamed to wear that patch. Let's don't turn Ted Koppel into the man in the truck and beat him down. Let's be one of those 4 men that took up that man and saw indecency. And let's show America we are the moral fiber of this country. We will take back this country back to the grassroots. And I would like to say this to our president. I'm going to be ashamed. I took a lot of heat. I voted for Reagan. Yes, I did. I was in the service. Hey, I was in the service at the time. I felt right. I voted for Bush. I felt right for myself. Listen, what I'm saying. What I'm saying. One thing I will say. I'm going to be real to the point. One thing I will say. I voted at 18 years old. I was a responsible. You don't ridicule a young black man at 18 voting. I at least voted. One thing I will say. President Bush, I put you in office with my vote. Before we go to Russia and spend that money, before I go to Czechoslovakia and bail them out, I asked just for the opportunity to make a difference in this country as a young black man, and before my own black brothers ridicule me for voting for that man, I exercised my right where a lot of us didn't exercise right, and I voted and I served my country well. Thank you. I don't have a question. You ask why this is happening? Because my country, tis of thee, is a racist land of liberty. Land where my father died because he was chained and he was tied from every mountainside injustice reigns. No justice, no peace. First there was quiet, then there was a riot. This was a dedication to Rodney King, who was riding down the road 9 out of 10, didn't do a thing. Just the color of his skin was enough to bring him in. Dead or alive, lucky to survive. We all saw it on the news show LAPD Gestapo. And thanks to the video that was shown, the whole world knows what black folks have always known. Out in the street, don't worry about the thief, you better worry about the police chief. We'd rather have the inmates than have Daryl Gates and be living in the police states. No justice, no peace. First it was quiet, then there was a riot.
Right. But you know what's funny is, okay, on another city I showed this, right? I said, nigga, sister, give us some that, right? You hear me talking about you want to take it, right? First it was quiet, then it was a riot. That'll be the buzz. So I said, man, show is quiet. I said, first it was quiet, then it was a riot. Oh, okay. Got things right on schedule here. Yeah, that's my man there. He gonna be famous. You're right. We talking about all over the country. We want him to expand. He be stretching them sentences too, boy. Make that shit rhyme. Yeah, that was pretty good. That's pretty good. Something I wanted to say when I saw that. Just think about this. You know, it's kind of ironic. Isn't it strange that everything that has happened as a result of all of this? Now, we're talking about the combustion was already there. Almost every rebellion has been responded to through some form of police activity. The police has been the fuse to light the combustion in our community. Rockefeller can't do it. The Korean woman can't do it. Actually, a Rodney King thing didn't do it. The verdict of the Rodney King thing did it. But the thing that glued it all together was the one white boy with the video camera. Now, I want you to think about this one person. This one little white person shot something that had two crests in it. Crests meaning rows. One was the initial showing of it, for which he was paid, and the subsequent response to it, for which that became the measuring stick. And all over the one person. One person was the victim. One person was the watcher. Now, if you look at the film, you see the people who drive by the beating. It's called drive-by watching. They didn't stop. They didn't honk. They didn't try to do anything to stop it. Make sure they weren't seen watching it. You know how you meet somebody doing some shit, you don't even want them to see you see it. I didn't see it. So you're not held in accordance with what you saw. Now that white boy is in jeopardy. He's in jeopardy because the white race is going to hold him personally responsible for telling the truth. See, that's that double truth. Then he had it. If he had been a good old boy, he'd have took it to them and they would have buried it. What about the one white boy who was the policeman who pulled back and told on other policemen and broke the code of silence? They're going to fuck him up. They're going to fuck him up because when they say, look, we're going to get out of this, we're going to fuck you up. And now he's in jeopardy. But that little white guy who did the video was showed. You know, sometimes people don't understand what they themselves can do at certain moments. In that particular moment, something happened, and he happened to be blessed with an opportunity to be involved in it. Now, you could have had your camera been on another block, but nobody got beat. It wasn't nothing to shoot. Meaning opportunity arose. And if you ever saw, remember they did a thing, a film, and they were talking about the Kennedy assassination. They were talking about Abraham Zapruder, the man who shot that film. And without the film, the others would have gotten away with what they saw, saying, don't believe your lying eyes. And so that would have happened had it not been for the camera. So in that particular case, and I want to reinforce the thought that don't feel like because you may feel like or been told that as a disconnected individual, you might not have any impact on a situation. You may be just the flick. You know, they used to make a comment, and they're all about the frivolous nature of black nationalism, how small it is. And Malcolm used to always say it didn't have to be big, it just had to be the fuse on the keg, the part that actually had the relationship with the match that then led to the timing of the explosion. And that's why fuse is on it, so that the explosion goes off in a way that you have the time to be in the right position. How you doing, sister? I didn't even know as you back there. She busy talking. Got this beautiful baby with you too. She still ain't heard me. She's still talking. How you doing, sister? Good to see you. Right? I see. That's right. I know you're excited too. How are you? I'm doing very good. Good to see you. All right. That's your beautiful African baby back there? No. Who beautiful African baby? Oh, that's your beautiful. Oh, that was up here. All right. Hey, look, the revolution, them African babies. Have as many as you can handle.
What's your prognosis for now that the uprising is sort of quailed? What do you see?
It ain't quailed, right?
Or Bush.
Right, it ain't or Bush, right? It is like the fuse just waiting for the right ignition. I'll make this projection for you. This is my next lecture. When I see you next, you'll be hearing about a little up FEMA discussion, the grades discussion. This will be another up discussion about scenario. The scenario is that in July, there'll be major disruptions around this country. When the Democratic Convention comes in mid-July, there'll be major demonstrations and activities, generally led by whites at the Democratic Convention, as a way of using it as a focal point for disgust.
Make it plain.
By the time the Republican Convention comes, as long as you won't tell, as long as the Republican Convention comes in August, every group in the country will target the Republican Convention as the place to go to let the white man know you don't like him. And the whites are going to be in the forefront of the rebellion. Number one video out now with the video stores is JFK. This is when the poor people get their opportunity to see the reason how the white people got in a position to pull off New World Order. When August comes, Bush is going to see that the nation is on the edge of its seat. Now, he's already pre-tested emergency management in Peru, where under the guise of protecting democracy, the head of Peru suspended the Congress, suspended the Supreme Court, suspended the regional government, seized the newspaper and the radio, and did it under the guise of saving the democracy. He destroyed it to save it. Peace for war, war for peace. And so Bush, in August, now remember he made a point about he ain't fighting P-Rock until the Republican Convention is over, which means that's fighting spot. Bush will look up and see that he is so far down in the polls in August that he will use the disruption at the Republican Convention to declare a 30-day suspension of the Constitution. He'll do that in August. I'm going to tell you why. In August, when they had that Republican convention, there's going to be disruption everywhere. Remember 68. Now, like 68, you got to be careful to make sure it ain't the government. There was government, Abby Hoffman, Rennie Davis, and all them. They was government. That's why they bound and gagged Bobby Seale and didn't bound and gag the 7 white kids. And that was Chicago, so we know it well in Chicago. Bush would declare martial law in August to run to mid-September, 30 days. But in actuality, he knows that he's going to declare martial law past the appointed election date, which is the first Tuesday in November. Bush will be so low in the polls in August that what his real goal will be with the declaration of martial law is to delay the election in November. By declaring the martial law, he will in fact cut into campaign time in a way that it will force them to agree to push back the actual date of the election. Now remember the election scenarios. Electoral College, House of Representatives, the Senate. You got all kind of combinations that Bush, who was even in on the Kennedy assassination killing in the 60s, along with numerous other things, the most groomed president in the history of this country, will never have been involved in all those killings and let a P-Rod, a Clinton, or even let Rockefeller switch horses on him, because you know they tried to kill Bush in Asia. That was poison that knocked him out his chair, not a flu. Flu don't cause temporary loss of oxygen to the brain. So here in November, with these conditions, now what could fuck Bush thing up? The Electoral College could do not what it's supposed to do. The House and the Senate can cut deals. The states got to vote. All kind of shit got to happen. And this is what you call the realm of unpredictability. CIA man, using a probability scale, will look at that and say, I don't want it to happen, so I will divert that. And I'll supersede it with the martial law piece, and I'll suspend the Constitution, delay the election until I believe it's a moment when I can win it legally, but I'm prepared to keep it illegally if I have to, because I've been killing since the early 60s. I'm in too deep now just to give it up.
Brother Copley, could you just explain how the suspending the Constitution would impact upon us as African Americans, black people? Just a little bit.
It won't take but a little bit. We're going to be in the goddamn camp. If that's the way they pull out. That's the way they pull it out. It will not be good for us. I've always suggested that each and every one of you, there's several things I always got you to have a gas mask. You got to have food stored. You got to have in 4 directions from your house dry clothes, straight edges, precious metal, water, weaponry, and whatever else you need in case you have to run out of your house. You ought to have those things buried in 4 directions. Any way you run, because you may not be able, you may have put all your shit east, and you may have to run beast. And so you can't get caught having to run in a direction where you didn't store your stuff. Now you can hide it right in the middle of a park. The only person you're going to bump into is somebody else been to the lecture hiding their shit too. So you may cut a hole in the dirt, look and see all the space taken. Everybody get back. You just got hip just now. So we be conscious of the fact that preparation involves defensive and offensive discussion. So in a defensive discussion, you may have to retreat to any one of certain areas, and that from there you will regroup and start another process already thought out. Now, disqualification language. Anywhere or wherever that these circumstances may arise, there is always the need under certain situations to try to get you to talk in disqualifying language. Disqualifying language is that you would say some premeditated thing that will allow someone to then use your dialogue and then charge you with conspiracy. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. So you have to be careful about disqualifying language. Okay, so we be conscious of that in the discussion about how you respond. That's why you need a fundamental reason for why you do what you do. Because there was a criminal enterprise started from the Constitution, therefore everything done since that time is moot or illegal. And you rule it that way, therefore your other actions become justified. You've laid the foundation for something that you must do. And that foundation will not allow you to be caught in word trickery. We were in Atlanta during the rebellion. Some brothers came to the lecture and sat way up in the corner. We were in the beautiful Barclay Hotel in downtown Atlanta, which is owned by the Yahweh people. And we was the only black people downtown because all the white people had left. So we had a lecture down there to find the little curfew that they had. And some brothers sat up in the corner and they started asking some very pointed questions, dealing with specific little tenets of the Constitution. To use the dialogue to get me to say something that would sound like some infraction, some little white infraction of the Constitution, by giving a dialogue that put insurrection out of context. See, keep your dialogue about insurrection in context to the dilemma and the status of the opposition, which is illegitimate. You have to always do it in context, because your foundation will be so strong, even in interrogation or trial, you cannot be defeated with what you can prove. And so you have to have the appropriate foundation in place. I'm just pointing this thing. To keep your actions in context. Sister was talking earlier. Sister still here. We was talking about the Nigretians and about being a part of a nation. Is Sister still here?
Oh, she's gone.
Good. She asked me to talk about it. She's gone. Anyway, we're just talking about being able to claim you from a nation. See, I claim I got diplomatic immunity. You grab me, I say I'm from another nation, and that I ain't of this set. And that's another thing too. We need some of the right people in Washington, D.C. and in Washington. And a lot of people, with even little regular people, got diplomatic plates. And you need to have access to some diplomatic pouches. The white man plays a little game, and he gives there's a certain little zone where everybody's protected. It's called diplomacy. You're allowed to have secret packages that can be opened by anybody. You're allowed to mess up a law. I remember there's a little recent incident where a white woman's child was ran over by a car with diplomatic plates and left the scene of the accident. The little girl died. They had got the license plate number, and they can't do nothing with the driver because they got diplomatic immunity. They can't even accuse them of leaving the scene of the accident, let alone ran them over, because of the immunity. And certain times, in certain circumstances, in New York and Washington especially, except for other places where your consular general officers are, you need to have the right people with the right type of diplomatic immunity, status, should we say. So anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Anybody else got a certain question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your scenario there. You said the white group will be involved. What will they be protesting specifically?
They will be protesting their disgruntlement and distrust of their fathers, uncles, and grandfathers. This happened in the 60s. This happened in the 60s. And when it happened, that's when the crisis of democracy thing came out, when he got scared that the whole thing had gone too far, and that just natural opposition would overthrow him. So the white kids will provide the overall hysteria. Go back and look at the police riots of '68. I remember when they had the police riots in Chicago in '68 around the convention, they had a guy, Governor Dan Walker, go out and write the Walker Report. It was similar to the Kerner Report. Both of them men were governor of Illinois. They wrote the reports. As soon as they finished the reports, they got indicted and they both went to jail. Kerner died in jail. In case you want to know what happened to the man who wrote the Kerner Report, he died in jail, where his white brother put him for writing the report that he didn't like. So I got to repeat that a second, put it back on this tape, so that we can talk about that. Just for the fact to repeat the fact that the reports, the Walker Report by Governor Dan Walker and the Kerner Report by Governor Otto Kerner, both resulted in both men, governors of Illinois, to subsequently be indicted and put in jail for writing reports that revealed things about whites that they didn't want discussed publicly. And in this scenario, the whites are going to provide a certain level of hysteria, as you saw in '68. Only I believe this time, see, somebody may start a trick for one game, but other people jump on the trick and direct it in a different direction. And I suggest when certain things happen now, other people know how to capitalize on it. You won't be faking, touching around to see if the fire will explode. You run around and lose your hand. Somebody, something going to explode, you hold it in your hand, and somebody takes it and forces it in your hand so that it's forced to go off in your hand. And your experiment was a little bit more intense than suggested. Let me go back. Let me go back and get this Cecil Murray thing in here, and then I have to take a few more questions. I have to get out of here. Now, if anybody want to put up $200, $300, $400, $500 and change my plane tickets and stuff, I'll stay all weekend. But since I know I gotta go home, I'm going on home. Cecil Murray. You got pre-planning, you got post-planning. Now the question becomes, at what point was this man utilized to be a part of the cool-out? That's the goal of the white race when the rebellion starts, is cool out. So now you've got Operation Cool Out or Cool Heels, whatever it is. But now you also know that before you use a person, you have to build them up effectively. Now, prior to this, probably when you weren't looking as closely, he became the 177th point of light for George Bush. Now, if you've ever seen a point of light application and know anything about the point of light committee, which has to approve of your name, different things have to go about for you to be in this position, that Bush would know a whole lot about Cecil Murray just for him to be a point of light. Not only does the committee have to pre-screen him, give characteristics of his activities and so forth, but they also have to make a decision about whether he's a political liability. Because what if you made him a point of light, he said, fuck you, Bush. You ever heard of a point of light come out and say, fuck you, Bush? Hey, Michael Jackson's a point of light. What's that little chump singer name? Johnny Gill. He a point of light. Yeah, he a point of light. That little nigga went to the White House. He was all kind of disillusioned. But my point is that a point of light is a well-screened person who has been considered politically safe. Yes. No, he the one who went to the White House, though, for the meeting. Yeah, no, I don't know that he is, no. It's interesting about that Korean man, whoever he was, gave Bush that $400,000, and they put him right down the table from Bush, because he get the money, and then all his wives call in and say, he owed me money, alimony, he ain't took care of his children. And they end up having to get the money over to the people who claimed he had frauded them. That's just an interesting situation, real ironic. So we know that as a point of light that he was already a part of the fixture. All right, yes, brother.
Cecil Murray was a firefighter.
Okay, let's put that down there. Was that for the Negro Airlines, or who was that for?
Air Force.
Right, and the only ones got firefighters. That's the U.S. Air Force, right?
United States.
Right. Anybody else got any other characteristics that should go up here? Yes. Point of Light is a project that George Bush developed to give honor to people who were doing things that he felt would exploit, well, he wouldn't say exploit the people, but do things that exploit the people in a way that a white would reward them. Primarily it's given to blacks and Hispanics and whites who are doing social service type activities, given the high-level entertainers and actors and athletes to go out and do things on behalf of Bush's committee. He had an outside committee that put up money to allow him to declare people points of light. Now, if you know anything about masonry and you know anything about symbolism, you would pick up on the use of the phrase point of light. And in fact, his phrase was, he'd go out and give a lecture and say, we have 1,000 points of light out there. Well, he called himself a point of light. And that means if you had 1,000, and you took, see, it's because it's only supposed to be 1,000. You're going to go until you get to 1,000, if you're around that long. And you take him off, because he won. That'll leave you with 999. Right. Show you right. So that's his point of light program. So now, what else we got with Cecil Murray? Do we got government grants? Do Cecil Murray have government grants?
They do a lot of development with CRA.
What's CRA? Community what? Community Redevelopment Agency. That's a part of the city?
Yeah.
And then there a big white guy who make more money than the mayor, anybody who heads that. I remember coming here reading an article about a white guy who headed a little development committee who had more power than many elected officials, made about $200,000 a year. What?
Yeah, Richard.
Oh, he's the CEO of the county. Okay. Okay. Well, fuck him too. Now, I also know, now the night I was at the church, we were in the little nightline room because it was 50 degrees and it was raining, so they had declared an emergency in the city. And that's either P-Rod, that's Bush, that's either that or Jesse Jackson. That could be Murray on the phone. Yeah, Julius Butler, we don't want to forget him. He he appointed like? I ain't gonna tell y'all the 98 pound joke. I ain't gonna do that one tonight.
I understand that one of the brothers who's part of the membership was the brother. What's the Hampton that got killed in Chicago? He was the one who was an FBI informant.
Yeah, that's Julius Butler. He was involved in the Geronimo Pratt case. And he was the informant, the government FBI informant. And I want to pass these pictures around. Oh, I gotta put this part in my pocket. That I mentioned about Murray being all over the country at the moment that the verdict was announced. And here is a picture of Murray on the cover of the USA Today on that Thursday. It's the first day of reporting on the rebellion. We started on Wednesday. And there's Julius Butler right there in the picture with him. Now, I don't know, could no FBI informant hang out with me in my church? Because I'd be worried about him working out with his old teammates. You can pass that around. They even mentioned Butler's name in the picture. Now, that's USA Today. Here's the Washington Post. A picture of Cecil Murray on that Thursday. Now, how did they all know to put Cecil Murray in their pictures? There's Julius Butler right there next to him with some other guy named Reverend Leonard Jackson. And here they are, ministers Julius Butler, Cecil Murray, Leonard Jackson, joined in prayer during meeting in Los Angeles following not guilty verdict of the trial of 4 police officers. Here's the front page of the Washington Post that same day with a picture of Cecil Murray on it. Says the city's oldest black church tonight called for calm and scattered violence was reported. And he's tearful, he's running tear, and it's to give the perception of remorse that the black people are really hurt that such a thing happened. Now I make a point that no newspaper, now this is a fact, you can proactive this. Somebody can say, oh, you know, Reverend Murray, that damn Copley, he talked about you like a dog, so on and so on. If challenged, Copley will suggest that Murray and Copley have a little get-together. And I'll go and I'll bring 35 or 40 newspapers from around the country and ask that black man why would he think that all of those editors and all those different spaces would know to put his face on the picture of their paper for no other reason than the fact that they had a picture of him. Now, I also can tell you that the evening news, which runs every night, out of 15 stories, the 3 major stations at least run 13 to 14 stories identical, even to the point of coming identically at the same moment. You can switch. If they all come on at once, and mainly in most cities, 2 come on at one time, 1 come on another time, you can look at the stories down to run in parallel on the 2 stations. They run it all. How aware do they go? Max Robinson told me that there's a spot where they meet at. And they centralize the scope of the news and limit it in a way that nobody's out of order. And so we be conscious of that. So my allegation would be to Cecil Murray is that all of these editors, all white, only 2% of the national media is black, would never pick a certain black man's face because they thought it was pretty. So my allegation is they picked him because he was on a mission. And the mission was a pre-decided mission, not a post-decided mission. When I checked on the use of the church that night for a rally, which was to cool the people out, and Bradley made a statement from there because they condemned Bradley for not making statements more forcefully earlier, when Bradley knows that his move was not to make a statement until he got to the church. And he was to use the church as the spot for him to make his statement, with the unity and the holding hands and all that goofy shit. They was telling me, they said, while they was in the church praying, they was outside burning. Just doing it right in the line of the 2.
Side by side on
Yeah.
television.
Exactly. Now that's another thing too. I'm interested in seeing some of your TV video. I won't see nothing. You know, I heard a lot of false hysteria. You know, like I don't want you to see my stuff because I don't want the police to get it. If you can't hide a video from the police, your ass need to go to jail. If you can't hide no damn 6-inch video from the police, your ass need to go to jail. You can, again, you can hide something right in front of somebody. If they don't know the code, they'll never find it no way. And you have to be that clever. The standard is you have to be that clever, and I mentioned earlier, be able to change your identity at least twice without being recognizable, including your voice. Now, in this pre-planning, as early as April 4th, there's another one of these work a little better. Where that at? Hey, that black one, standing straight up. April 4th, Martin King birthday. That was Martin King's death birthday. On April 4th, they had a meeting at the church, didn't they? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now let's be fair. This is not to single you out, but we want you to assist us in helping us understand exactly like Sister was there. She helped us understand. Sister helped us understand what was going on by being there. And now I see it. I should have known that was you. I didn't look at it good enough. I was more interested in it was quiet than it was a riot. But on April 4th, allegedly there was a meeting in the church. And at this meeting, it was decided that they needed 2,000 black men. Now, no organization in America has 2,000 black men in it, active for one particular purpose, except for now, right? But I mean, act together. Now, Murray says he has 7,200 members of his church. Now, a lot of that's paper, because many people come ain't members, so church stay full. But the point is that 2,000 black men going on the street together to accomplish a project has never ever been done in L.A. So this was a paramount feat to suggest from the jump that you're going to get 2,000 black men in the room, and then you're going to start preparing them for a verdict that didn't come due until, what, April 28th? Okay. Now, one thing I want you to check to see if it was a full moon that night. Because, see, white people do shit real eerie. They be doing shit, timing shit with stars and all this other stuff, and because we're not paying attention, we don't pick them up. But you better check something about what was going on right then, because the announcement and the release of the verdict and the picking of the time and everything.
It was a full moon. I did look.
Oh, my theory is correct.
It was nice and bright.
And you know, you can check the old moon calendar and it'll tell you precisely like clockwork how that goes. Now, how many of y'all was at the meeting for the 2,000 black men?
I heard about it.
Oh, is there anything you could tell us about it that would help us?
Not really, other than you just said that they were going to have that and try to get that many people out.
And so then what happened? Boy, you tough, boy. Yeah, I can't get you to say no more than I say.
That's all I heard. Because I didn't, I wasn't even able.
Well, tell us something.
I wasn't able.
Tell us anything.
You just mentioned that.
No. Look. Tell us anything we should know. Tell us anything.
If I knew it, I would tell you.
You know anything about the church we should all know?
Nothing other than I just go to it.
Oh, I thought you was in the church. You have to pay to be a member?
Yeah.
What you do is fill out a form?
Yeah.
They put it on file and stuff. What committee you on?
I'm not on the committee. I don't have the time. My time is too.
But when you became a member, didn't they try to get you on the committee?
It was optional.
Oh, okay.
It was optional. They suggested 30 committees that you could join if you want to.
Okay. How much do we collect every Sunday?
A lot of money.
A lot of money? Okay. What do they do with the money?
But he's building a school now.
Oh, okay.
Cecil Murray's Education Center.
Listen up now. He's building what?
He's building a school.
A school?
Yeah, and they should break ground next year.
Oh, all right.
Education Center.
Education.
But it's going to be primary school, 1st to 6th grade.
Oh.
He does a lot of good things.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Let me ask you this. Do we do any bad things? Listen up now.
What do you mean by that?
You know, do we do anything that ain't too good for the community?
I would suggest, because of his position that he occupies, that he's being used to serve the interests of the ruling elite. I would say that.
Well, now I feel better. I can go on now. Yes, sir.
Has anyone found out what he's doing with all this money that they're sending for the relief?
I hear there's been some consternation over that some people suggest that it's not being used for the appropriate purposes. We also know that, well, I know I saw when Atlanta Richfield gave him $100, it was supposed to be for food relief. That he was supposed to be buying food and giving it away to the people who needed the food.
They dispensing the money.
Hey, they gave Bush $1 million.
What?
Atlanta Richfield gave Bush $1 million.
To do what?
Not the church.
What do you think?
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, campaign.
I met the head of the financing of AME, and he didn't. When he told me, he was just trying to just brag about what he was doing. But when I questioned him about it, then he started to shut up, and he didn't really want to answer any more questions. So I started drilling on the money, and he said, "Oh, I don't know exactly how much money they get." Well, if you're head of finance, you should know how much is coming in a week, or how much they have in their accounts, and where they bank at. He said he can't remember.
Well, I know on the Riot report, those of you all who got the $20 Riot report from Washington, D.C., there's an ex-member of the church who is on the tape, and I didn't know he was there. We in Washington, D.C. I didn't know anybody out there even knew Cecil Murray. That's why I was so glad to know something about him so I could teach other people stuff, and a little bit. And he stood up in the audience, a very mild-mannered brother, and said, "I used to be a member of the First AME Church. I'm not a member anymore because me and several other people got together and accused the pastor of diverting the finances in a way that it was actually using the people's money illegitimately." And he said they asked him about the record keeping or something, and it just spilled over into something that all of them left the church. And this brother, in fact, left the city and came to Washington, D.C. to live.
But Brother Coakley, they put out an annual financial statement.
Right.
They put out that.
Right, and that's usually how it's done. You do it annually. And what you do is you spend the other 11 months getting it together. Right, because basically there's probably a finance committee in the church that counts the money once a week. So if you can count it once a week, I might as well count it once a week. Ain't no need to be waiting till the year to find out 52 weeks worth of shit. I might not have that much time. Yes, sister.
Yeah, they just finished that.
It displaced people by building it.
Well, the place that they completed the
Listen up.
The place that they completed the senior citizen housing tract is just right adjacent to the church, so it really didn't displace a lot of people.
It's bad.
Well, anytime there's development, you're going to displace people unless you rebuild comparable housing. You're going to displace people. See what I'm saying?
Okay. Yes. It would be interesting to ask if anybody gets an opportunity, if they could ask him if he is a member of the Boule. That would be, shit, he might be the chairman. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, Bradley is a member of the church.
And I know that when I mentioned the Boule that night in the meeting, there was a whole lot of hissing and all other kind of shit trying to tell me to stop it. So I know there's knowledge enough of the Boule to know they don't want nobody to be talking about it. And he definitely would fit the Boule pattern.
What is the Boule?
The Boule is this word here. This is just for you, brother, because most of them know. B-O-U-L-E. It's a Greek word. Means advisors to the king. It's a secret society started in 1904 in Philadelphia by black men who considered it their role to advise the king. It's a first of the black male or female Greek fraternity or sororities. It was started in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Martin King, Whitney Young, Ralph Bunch, Ron Brown, John Johnson, Earl Graves, Mayor Arrington, Mayor Jackson of Atlanta, Bradley, W.B. Du Bois founded the New York chapter, Carter G. Woodson. It's a collection of, yeah. And so they formed an association, and maybe as we, this really wasn't my moment to do the boule, but sometime in the future when we do our future things, we need to have a lecture just on it. It is a part of the things that I do. There is a tape or two over there on the boule, and that's worthy of the discussion. Here's an article I'm going to pass to you that first got us up on the boule. LA Times, July 18th, 1990. That's the lead article. First one that we ever found, July 18th, 1990, LA Times. There also was another article that appeared November 23rd, 1991 in the Washington Post on Douglas Wilder and his presidential attempt to run because he went and got his seat to run for president. You need 5,000 in every state to be qualified for matching funds. So instead of going to the people in every state, he went to the state boule chapter, and every boule chapter gave him 50,000. And it says that Wilder uses upper middle class clubs and fraternities to advance presidential campaign. And it was about his role with the Guardsmen and with the boule. Those are the only two known public articles that we've ever found. When we went to Atlanta recently, a brother stole the handbook of the boule from Atlanta, which has a nice little history on it, and the names of the Atlanta members, the founders of the Atlanta chapter, the committee structure, and other things that we never had before. This is a boule list of several cities. I don't have LA with me. I didn't come to do the boule lecture. And in fact, here is even a little article in the black paper in Washington updating the DC boule names. They had just had a little party in Washington, and now float this around. Don't forget my book now. When we finish, don't y'all forget my book. Okay. Yes, brother.
One quick question. E.B. Hill, he's been pimped and parading around with Bush. He was one of the main Negroes that flew back for that 30-minute meeting.
Was that at his church that they had the meeting with Bush?
I think so. E.B. Hill.
Was that at his church when Bush went and had the meeting?
Yeah.
When Bush went into the church. Was that the right spot? Because I need to know that's the right spot, because you got to remember what Bush said. Now, I ain't said this. I forgot. This triggered something. I just want to get this point out. Don't lose your point. But when Bush went to that church, whoever churches it was a Mason's church. Because it was from that pulpit, Bush stood up and said, I am my brother's keeper. Now, that's a Masonic phrase. Now, Bush stood up and said that at that black church that he went to, where he said we got all it together and all that bullshit. Now, I don't know. I need to know now, emphatically, whose church was that? E.B. Hill, the same person. Z.B. Hill. E.B. Hill.
He was a Negro that they took into Washington for the 30-minute meeting, and the one that you saw Bush on the camera with, and everything else too, being paraded around the community.
I wouldn't doubt if he was a Mason either. Probably he might be either the top or near the top of the Prince Hall Masons here in California. I make that suggestion because Bush cannot give that code phrase without his teammates in the room. That allows him to give it out. So it was from that church. You go back and check, because all of the front pages read it. I am my brother's keeper. And then he says, no, not to keep you, but to assure your longevity, your safety, your educational ability, and all these other bullshit words. But the key phrase there was, I am my brother's keeper. See, from the back, they was hollering, is there no help for the widow's son? That's some more code phrasing. How many of y'all in your Masons? How many of y'all in here couldn't tell if you was or was not? Is anybody in here lying to Brother Steve? Anybody in here lying to Brother Steve? Now, Brother Steve put a lot of weight on when he asked you. It's a compelling moment now. Don't let Brother Steve be finding you out later. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Go on, confess. I'm going to ask again. Anybody in here that makes... Anybody in here? Nobody want... And can't nobody say nothing? Okay. All right. Yes.
NRA is having a rifle education seminar.
No, listen up now. Sister said something about the NRA. You'll take one of these and pass them back, could you? Oh, even if you pass them out, I'd appreciate it if you would. I'm sorry, sister. The National Rifle Association is having a gun education seminar on Monday.
They had one on Saturday in Inglewood and Culver City. They have one tomorrow.
Yeah, we should go.
Where's the one that's tomorrow?
Van Nuys Women's Center.
Might not be too
I have
many
no idea
blacks
where
up
it
there.
is. Van Nuys Women's Center.
Which are it?
They also have one in Pasadena. I have a number.
There we go. Yeah, sister got the number. Now, I got to hip y'all to the National Black Rifle Association because we need to go with the black rifles. We need to go to the white rifle people and watch them, but then we do our best shoot. See, you go to the white rifle people and you get it to target, you just shoot the shit all over the place, you know. Be shooting all wild and shit, right? And you want them to teach you stuff, right? Even though you may already know. Whereas when you go to that black rifle station, you be pointing them bulls out, you be busting them out, right? Right.
Okay, the number that I have is area code 310-348-0090.
All right. So, just to say this quickly, because I'm really getting a little tired, and is that on April 4th, they began to assemble 2,000 black men to go out and diffuse the tension when the trial verdict was announced. How would they know? How did they know that they needed it? Because if it was that it was going to be announced a guilty verdict, then there would be no need for the 2,000 black men because they'd be celebrating so in the street. What are they going to do? Pass out party favors or something? Yes, brother.
They're having guided tours of the Coliseum. That's something everybody might want to look at. LA Coliseum, guided tours.
What's the significance of that?
It's going to be a camp.
If it's going to be a camp or a holding place, it should be.
Did they use it during the rebellion? Listen up, listen up. Okay, that's good, that's good.
Use the other mic.
Well, here, use that one until I get this one. Go ahead.
Word of mouth is that up under the Coliseum, they hid all the tanks from the last rebellion, the last rebellion. So that tour might be what's going to see.
Also, the Baldwin Hills Mall.
Right, has the police station underneath there. Yes,
There's
sir.
a whole underground structure that went all the way across the street everywhere, which is not in use right now.
And
It could be anything. They even have a police substation there.
And you heard about the one in Chicago because it flooded.
Yeah, right. That was good.
Right. And somebody back there had a question. Marion or Marcus, somebody raised their hand back there? Thank you, sister.
Bus station on 54th and Arlington, one of the, I think it was Channel 9, one of the newscasters was broadcasting out of there the night that it broke out. And he was so crude as to ask the policeman that he was interviewing what was the vehicle that was moving out of that location, which had a sniper at the top, and it was a Suburban. Everything was all black. And then one of those tanks rode out of there, so possibly underground, under that bus station right there, 54th and Arlington, they probably have a whole arsenal. And they sort of kept a secret for the first day. They didn't let anybody mention the location of it, but, you know, you could recognize it if you drive by it often enough. And, you know, they had tanks, and they had multi-purpose vehicles, and that was their command station. One of the command stations.
Fuel depot. That's a fuel depot. They get all buses there, they have diesel fuel, they can run anything.
When they had tanks, and they had artillery coming out.
Yes, Brother Osaka.
In the book, The Choice, he talks about in Nazi Germany, not to alarm the people right away that they were taking them off to the camps, is that they would bring them into the front door of the police station, but they had a back door which was next to a train track or something, and they just heard the people out at night. Chicago, they talk in the same book, he talks about he was using the same, he was showing how it was similar as in Chicago. They had another police department somewhere in Chicago that they would actually be able to do the same thing, move the people out at night by a back door, underground, and take them out so people wouldn't be alarmed that there would be a mass exodus.
One of the best scenarios I ever heard about what it would be like when we were picked up is on that FEMA #1 tape, audio. There was a little scenario that I had done in Chicago when I first had learned about FEMA. And I thought about Chicago. You ought to at least be able to think about what you would do if you had the job to do it in your own city, and just you thinking like you think will help you understand what they thought about. And everybody should have a real good detailed map of their neighborhood. You ought to be able to know certain things about it that others don't know, and that you ought to master where you're standing. You may be responsible for at least maintaining an area, and it's more than likely the best area you can maintain is where you are. And so others may depend upon you in certain circumstances to be well aware of your area so that that can help others at those moments. Yes, sister?
There also was another speaker who mentioned about the public storage housing. He says not furniture for people.
Right, and if you watch them, I remember it's one public storage here that's right down the freeway. The freeway is like here, and it's right down the freeway. And Brother Marcus and Sister Marion and I had spent a summer going around the city shooting mysterious towers and microwave dishes and little stuff fenced in behind little barbed wire fences and those public storages and certain symbols that they alleged were gang symbols that we found were police codes. And there are all kind of things that are laying in front of everybody. And be conscious of that, because that public storage, geez, that shit really looked like an alternative concentration camp. It'd be good for somebody to pull their incorporation papers and find out exactly who is the president of the public storage company.
Yeah, I think last year I went to a survival preparedness expo at the Pomona Fairgrounds, and you could count the number of us that were there. And all these Anglos, believe me, they preparing themselves, and I could count the number of African Americans.
And you know, it ain't so bad that whatever it is they think about what they do, because we have to believe that somehow, no matter how well prepared or how much stronger they think they are, that they just will not succeed. And they will not succeed because they are not right. That's why they will lose. And you may have to just carry the David and Goliath thing in your head, and the odds may be just that great. But just, you know, if you just use what you got and aim it correctly, there is a spot that you will make a difference. And so we just have to be in constant of that. And always remember, too, don't hit your horse until you get to the three-quarter pole. When you ride in that race, your job always is to keep your horse in the position to finish the finish line first, which doesn't necessarily mean you all out front early in the race, just being in the lead. Then when they get to the three-quarter pole, everybody catch your ass because you all out of gas. Now that it's time to hit it, to break the home stretch. So don't get your horse in the position to win until you get to the three-quarter pole. Hold him behind the leaders. Just hug that rail and be in the position they come. Here they come spinning out of the turn here to win the race, because being ahead don't count. Winning. Yes, sister. Oh, yeah, that was the big oil tanks. Y'all should have seen Sister now. Sister had her baby, and we was all on the ground in the dirt, bending down, looking up under this huge tarpaulin on Western. It's a huge canvas. Huge canvas, four-corner canvas. I said, I ain't never seen no shit like this before. Where they fenced the people out of being able to see what's in them big old tanks. And you know what they do? Because out there is where they were paying the little people for the oil well, right? But what they don't know, people don't know, imagine that a bathtub is an oil well. The stopper is not at both ends. The stopper is at one end. So they go, and they got a big vat of oil down there, and all these people are living over it. So they go and ask the people, can I buy into your oil? It's under your house. And they say yes or no. If they say no, it don't make no difference, because when they pull a stopper out the tub could be over 20 houses. It's all going to drain down to the level of the hole, which means that they were tapping the oil without having to pay the people. Because the well was a big vat, and it didn't have to be over your house to pull it up. They could pull it across. And that's what we think was that they're doing there. And of course, they did it in a way they didn't want the people to see it. And if ain't shit going on, they had them big oil things out there where you could see them, you know, that little ease, that little thing be going up and down. But they didn't have none of them behind that third. They had them big tanks. They had huge tanks, looked like propane tanks with dangerous shit written in 80 languages all over it. Something up in there. And that was the day we went out. What was the name of that house in the development area we was at? That day. You remember when the police was shooting our pictures and harassing us and harassing the people there at that event? That we... Yeah, it was wild out there. We were out there with the chief. It was wild out there that day. Anyway, y'all, I about got to go. I really got to go. I got to stay up the rest of the night and pack, and it's never fun. I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I really honestly enjoyed it. I enjoyed this lecture myself, but I'm just a little tired. And I appreciate you all. In my address book, when I get back, I'll make sure I call everybody about the next lecture. In August, I'll be around here for a month or two, so we'll get to have several opportunities to get together. And, well, we'll work it from there. Anybody got any information, bring it up to the front. Anybody, if anybody wants tonight's tape, I at least have 6 of them ready. At least 6 of them ready.
Next study group meeting 28th June. Finishing up on black men, athletes, single and dangerous.